give me that one after.
Yeah, after. Give it to her. Okay.
Or, yeah, just put it there.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa, Bhagavad-gita Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, Bhagavad-gita Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. So before I forget, next Monday is Christmas Day. And there's a special program up at this devotee named Bhakta Vatsal's house in Encinitas. So I will be there, I won't be here. So we're going to miss a class. And I think some of you, or all of you, can go also. So, but anyway, so that's, I just wanted to make sure I didn't forget, because I forgot yesterday and the day before. I didn't forget today. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 20th day, 20th day? 20th day. 20th day of December, 2023 in San Diego. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in the 4th chapter, Transcendental Knowledge, text number 9. Now, we did this text yesterday, but no one here was there. And it's a very important text. So I apologize to those online who get it twice, but it's worth it. All right, text 9. Janma, karma, cha, nadivyam, excuse me, me divyam, evam, yo, veti tatpataha, tyaktva, deham, punarjanma, naiti, mam, eti, sorjana, janma karma cha me divyam, evam yo veti tatpataha, tyakva deham punarjanma, naiti mam eti sorjana, janma karma cha me divyam, evam yo veti tatpataha, tyakva deham punarjanma, naiti mam eti sorjana, janma karma cha me divyam, evam yo veti tatpataha, tyakva deham punarjanma, naiti mam eti sorjana, janma karma cha me divyam, evam yo veti tatpataha, tyakva deham punarjanma, naiti mam eti sorjana. Want to try it, Chris? Not today. Go ahead. Janma karma cha me divyam, evam, evam yo veti tatpataha. Second line, tyakva. Third line, okay. Tyakva deham punarjanma, naiti mam eti sorjana, janma karma cha me divyam, evam yo veti tatpataha, tyakva deham punarjanma, naiti mam eti sorjana. Anyone on Zoom?
Janma karma cha me divyam,
Janma karma cha me divyam,
evam yo veti tatvataha,
evam yo veti tatpataha,
tyakva deham punarjanma,
tyakva deham punarjanma,
naiti mam eti sorjana.
naiti mam eti sorjana. Is that Chad?
It is.
Why aren't you here, Chad?
Well, actually, I'm back home and I have COVID, so
Oh, okay, that's
the
that's
double.
a good reason. Okay.
Sorry about yesterday, though.
Yeah. Well, no one else was here
I feel
until
bad.
about
so.
half the class was over. Just me and the YouTube crew. All right, word by words. Janma, birth, karma, work, cha, also, me, of mine, divyam, transcendental, evam, like this, yaha, anyone who, veti, knows, tattvataha, in reality, tyakva, leaving aside, deham, this body, punaha, again, janma, birth, na, never, eti, does attain, mam, unto me, eti, does attain, saha, he, Arjuna, O Arjun. Translation. Now, there's one word I'm going to add in here because I'm trying to, it's in the Sanskrit, but it's not in the translation. One who in truth, one who knows in truth the transcendental nature of my appearance and activity does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjun. Purport. The Lord's descent from his transcendental abode is already explained in the 6th verse. One who can understand the truth of the appearance of the personality of Godhead is already liberated from material bondage, and therefore he returns to the kingdom of God immediately after quitting this present material body. Such liberation of the living entity from material bondage is not at all easy. The impersonalists and the yogīs attain liberation only after much trouble and many, many births. Even then, the liberation they achieve, merging into the impersonal Brahma Jyoti of the Lord, is only partial, and there is the risk of returning to this material world. But the devotee, simply by understanding the transcendental nature of the body and activities of the Lord, attains the abode of the Lord after ending this body and does not run the risk of returning to this material world. In the Brahma Samhita 533, it is stated that the Lord has many, many forms and incarnations. Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Ananta Rupam. Although there are many transcendental forms of the Lord, they are still one and the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. One has to understand this fact with conviction, although it is incomprehensible to mundane scholars and empiric philosophers. As stated in the Vedas, Purusha Bodhini Upanishad, Eko Devo Nitya Lila Anurakto Bhakta Vyapi Bhakta Rid Yantaratma. The one Supreme Personality of Godhead is eternally engaged in many, many transcendental forms in relationships with his unalloyed devotees. This Vedic version is confirmed in this verse of the Gita personally by the Lord. He who accepts this truth on the strength of the authority of the Vedas and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who does not waste time in philosophical speculations, attains the highest perfectional stage of liberation. Simply by accepting this truth on faith, one can, without a doubt, attain liberation. The Vedic version, Tattvam Asi, is actually applied in this case. Tattvam Asi means thou art that. Anyone who understands Lord Krishna to be the Supreme, or who says unto the Lord, you are the same Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead, that's Tattvam Asi, is certainly liberated instantly. And consequently, his entrance into the transcendental association of the Lord is guaranteed. In other words, such a faithful devotee of the Lord attains perfection, and this is confirmed by the following Vedic assertion. Tameva vidadvate mrityumeti nanyak panta vidyate yanaya. One can attain the perfect stage of liberation from birth and death simply by knowing the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and there is no other way to achieve this perfection. Shvetashvatara Upanishad 3.8. That there is no alternative means that anyone who does not understand Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is surely in the mode of ignorance, and consequently he will not attain salvation simply, so to speak, by licking the outer surface of the bottle of honey or by interpreting the Bhagavad Gita according to mundane scholarship. Such empiric philosophers may assume very, very important roles in the material world, but they are not necessarily eligible for liberation. Such puffed-up mundane scholars have to wait for the causeless mercy of the devotee of the Lord. One should therefore cultivate Krishna consciousness with faith and knowledge, and in this way attain perfection. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, this is quite a promise here. One who can know the transcendental nature of Krishna's appearance and activities attains liberation, does not come back after leaving this body. So, that word tattvataha, which appears at the end of this first line, first pada of the verse, is very important. It appears in two other verses in the Bhagavad Gita. We learned in the beginning of chapter 7, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid ye vedi tattvataha. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid mam vedi tattvataha. How's it go? Oh, yes, sir, thank you. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yadadi siddhaye yatatama visiddhanam kaschid mam vedi tattvataha. There's the tattvataha at the end of the verse. So what this verse says is, Manushyanam sahasreshu kastin yatati siddhaye. Yatati means to strive. Out of many thousands and thousands of human beings, hardly one will strive for perfection. Because what is perfection? Perfection ultimately means, in preliminary sense, to become free of all entanglement with the material world and to attain liberation from birth and death. So it's rare that someone's striving for that. They're striving for unlimited variety of material things. Half of the people, probably more than that in this world, are just struggling to survive in this world. Let me find a safe place to sleep. I will get some food in my belly and keep my children safe and whatever. You know, this is the nature of this Kali Yuga, as you probably know. But there are many, many individuals who are thoughtful, who are interested in finding out the meaning of life, what's the ultimate truth, and so forth. There's, 8 billion, there's a few million maybe. But unless they inquire in the proper way from the right source, they'll be misguided. Prabhupada is referring here to these people who try to become liberated but don't accept that the ultimate truth is a person, that the absolute truth, the final reality, the source of everything is a person. They're attached to the impersonal conception. Why? Because, Prabhupada would put it very simply, they're envious. They say, I am Brahman. This is a Vedic statement. Aham Brahmasmi. I'm not this body. That's the first step in understanding. We're not these physical bodies. This is all just a machine. It's constantly changing. And eventually it becomes dysfunctional like all machines. It's a wonderful thing. It goes, I'm 76 and I'm amazed at how the body is still repairing itself. You get a little injury here or there just by the nature of things. And then after a few days, it's still repairing itself. This is a very important aspect, because without that, then you can't really survive in this world. It has to be able to ward off damage and to repair damage. That's just one aspect. But eventually, it doesn't work anymore, for whatever reason. Injury, disease, just old age. So then what happens? Okay, everyone has to face death. It's there. People like to forget it, but it's always there. So then what happens? Well, that's the first lesson in Bhagavad Gita. The jayate mriyate vakadachan. For the living entity, there's no birth or death. He's not slain when the body is slain. What happens? You enter into another body. What determines that? The thoughts, the activities you perform, the thoughts you cultivated, the desires, all this, the subtle body, the mind. What is the nature of your consciousness? That is the template for the next body that you're going to have. And in the human form, if you performed a lot of sins, then you could go down to the lower species. So that's all invisible. That is not discoverable by what we call the ascending process of knowledge, which is the scientific method. Just observation, you establish some hypothesis, you test it out, it works, you can reproduce it. Okay, now we think we've discovered another little bit of what's going on in this material world. And we can manipulate it, and that's where we're living. This is a great edifice of knowledge that's been built up, and they know how to build the computers and manipulate this and create this. But in the process, they're destroying the environment because because the base motives are still there. Yes, we'll also figure all this stuff out, and we'll spend tons of money, millions of dollars, and then we'll make more millions of dollars. So the whole motive is really very based. It's just like, how can we increase our material opulence, power, and all these different things. So that means that Dharma has been lost. Krishna says at the beginning of the chapter, or the verse that Prabhupada refers to, 6, I think that's Yadaya Dahi Dharmasya. No, he says Ajobhisana Vyatma. All right. Well, he's describing why he comes. This famous verse that we just had a few verses back. 7. Yada yadahi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata abhyutanam dharmasya tadatmanam sajamyam. Tell me, you learned it as a child, right? Did you learn it when you were growing up? Yeah, this is a verse universal in India. So very, very important. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, that's the glani, dharmasya glani. O descendant of Bard, and a predominant rise of irreligion, abhutanam adharmasya, right? Then, tadatmanam sujamiham. I appear, I manifest myself. And then he continues in the next verse, which was the previous verse to this 9th verse that we just read. Paratanaya sadhunam vinashayasya dushkatam dharma sangstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. In order to deliver the pious, in order to protect the pious. It's very interesting. In the morning class, we're reading about about Hiranyakashipu. And anyone who knows the famous story, his son, he's a huge demon, very, very powerful. He takes over the whole universe. The only ones that didn't have to surrender to him were Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu. Even Narada Muni and all the gods were afraid of Hiranyakashipu. He'd performed these extreme austerities, become so powerful that he was burning the universe, and the demigods appealed to Brahma, please go down and do something. And so Brahma appears and sprinkles him with some transcendental water, and he appears from this anthill that's eaten his whole body, but he's so powerful that he was able to keep his life air going within his bones. A very powerful demon. And then Brahma offers him, whatever boon you want, except liberation, because I don't have liberation. So he has this whole list of boons that he thinks gives him liberation. Well, if he can't be killed in the day or the night, or in the air or the water or on the land, or by any of the creatures that Brahma created, or any of the ones that he didn't create, or by any weapon, or inside or outside, day or night, I'm covered. No one can kill me, right? I got it. So he thought he'd outwitted, Brahma. And then he goes on and he takes over the whole universe. And his son is born. There's a backstory. His son, while he was performing the austerities, his wife was in seclusion. She was pregnant, and the demigods arrested her because they thought that in her womb was another big demon. They're going to kill him. And Narada Muni comes by and says, "No, you can't kill him. He's a great devotee. So you just give me this. Let her come to my ashram, and I'll instruct her in devotional service." So it's interesting. She came there, but she's always wondering, when is my husband going to come out of these austerities and then come back to me? She's got a baby and everything. So Narada constantly instructed her, but Prahlad heard it. She didn't stick with her. She was too upset. So Prahlad was totally trained as a devotee in the womb. So when Hiranyakashipu comes out and they go back to the palace and everything, and she gives birth, he has no idea that his main son here. But you know what Prahlad means? He who gives bliss. So he's a source of bliss, his father thought, but actually he was a source of great anxiety and pain, because here's this big demon with a son. He wants to train him up to take over the kingdom of demons, but he turns out to be a devotee. It's a wonderful scene where he takes his son on his lap, and they didn't have report cards, so he asked, well, what's the best thing you learned today? He wants to learn how he's being trained up in Machiavellian politics and everything. So what does Prahlad say? Fearlessly. This is the whole glory of Prahlad. Fragile little boy, but he won't give up Krishna consciousness for anything, even though his powerful father is going to kill him. He just keeps meditating on Krishna. So what does he answer his father? This is the original archetypal preaching truth to power. The whole thing, truth to power. Tat sadhamanneya sadavaryadehinam sadasabudvignadhyama sadgrahat. Hitvatpapatam kriyamandakupam vanam gato yadhanam ashriyeta. So this was a shock for his father, and this is why. So sadhu, first of all, the word sadhu, Haribol Mark, welcome, Hare Krishna. Sadhu can mean many things. Of course, it can mean a devotee, someone who's tolerant, who's titikshvaka, very merciful, is a devotee. That's a sadhu. But it can also just mean very good. The word sadhu can be an adjective. So that's what it is here. He said, the best thing, Father, tat sadhu manne, in my opinion. He doesn't call him father, he calls him asuravarya, or best of the demons. Asuravarya. Dehinam, best for whom? Best for the embodied soul, which is all of us. And in one line he gives a description. Samudvigna diyam asagrahat. Always disturbed in mind. Maybe you get little intervals where you're not disturbed. Maybe you're asleep. But life in the material world, devoid completely of Krishna consciousness, is just one anxiety after another. Yeah. So, and why? Sadgrahat. This is, the Sanskrit is there's a verse in the, a one-liner in Bengali I think it's the 4th chapter of the Adi Leela in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's a Bengali verse. I don't know the Bengali, but the English is very simple. Essential truth, spoken concisely, is true eloquence. And these verses in the Gita and the Bhagavatam are just like that. In one phrase, a sadgrahat, he is characterized or given the explanation of why there's so much anxiety in this world. And a sadgrahat means holding on for dear life to that which is temporary. I always give the analogy, you probably heard it 10 times already, those who attend these classes. Here we are next to the ocean, right? So imagine you go out on a nice pleasure cruise, you have a boat, many people have boats, and they go out on the cruise, and a storm comes up, and suddenly the boat capsizes, and everyone is panicking. Maybe there's 4 or 5 people on the boat, but luckily they have these life preservers, So they all get in the life preserver, and everyone's floating and bobbing, and okay. But then they discover the life preserver itself has a leak. It's faulty, and they're gradually getting water, and they're all going to drown, So they're holding on to something which is fallible. In other words, which will change. The same thing is the body itself. You live in this world, in any species, and you're relying on the body to do your bidding. You can go where you want to go, you can fight with it and whatever, You're relying on it. But it's fallible. Eventually it becomes too weak, it's damaged, it becomes ill, and you're finished, right? You don't die, but you go on to the next body. So that's the source of anxiety, a sadgrahat. So what's the solution? 3rd line. Hit vatnapatam griyamandakupam. Now he analyzes. It's those who are griyamandakupam. Griya means materialistic family life, all the attachments and everything, which is like a blind well. Blind well, we don't have them here, but in India, to get water, you have to dig a well, and after the well goes dry and it gets overgrown with grass, you're wandering in the forest, boom, you fall into the well. Nobody can hear you screaming. You've covered you down in this well 20 feet deep. You can imagine how much anxiety that is, yelling and screaming. So the materialistic household life is like that. All the attachments, there's so many verses in the Bhagavatam that talk about that. Ata grihat cheta sutapta vittar janasimoho yamahamameti. This is Rishabdev. That as soon as there's the attachment, it begins with the attachment of male and female, very strong. Okay, you get married, then what happens? Griha, you need a griha. The first thing, oh my God, I get an apartment. The rents here are too high. Where are we going to go? Okay, we'll buy a van. You can imagine. So, griham, ata grihat cheta. Cheta means a field where you can that you can farm, or it means a job. You got to get a job, right? You got to have a way to support the whole family. So that's cheta, and then children come. Grihat, cheta, sutta, boys and girls, apta, relatives. Right? That's all. It can be a big headache. And then to support it all, vitta, you got to make a lot of money. Right? So this is a tremendous entanglement. If there's no tinge of Krishna consciousness in that household, then it's very, very conditioning. And all of this goes to feed the basic principle of false ego. Janasya moha yam aham mameti. I and mine. I am this body. I have this lineage. Where, I find out my genealogy. This is who I am. And mine, and the things related to the body are mine, and I can have them. This is Maya, and this is the illusion. So that's the problem that we're trying to solve. So what is Prahlad's solution to his father, his big demonic father, whose brother was killed by Vishnu? Hiranyaksha was killed by Varaha, the boar incarnation. So he has this undying hatred for Vishnu, and he really wants to kill him, if he can. And the last thing he wants to hear is from his son advice that you should go to Vrindavan and take shelter of Krishna, which is what the last line says. Griyamandakupam vanam gato, go to the forest, it's understood to be Vrindavan forest, Vrindavan, vanam gato yad hadim ashrayeta, take shelter, ashraya of Hari, What the heck is this? My very son here, I'm raising to be demon number one, my heir, and he's gotten polluted by the teachers, and he gives his glance at Sunda and Amarka, the two teachers, and what do they say? We didn't tell him. We didn't teach him that. We have no idea. How they could know? No, he was taught in the womb. So it goes on like that, and finally his father just can't take it anymore, and he gives him over. Okay, kill him. And they try everything. They bring in the elephants to stomp on him, poison the snakes. They throw him in a pot of boiling oil. Prahlad is just meditating on Vishnu and Krishna. He's completely protected. He's so absorbed. He is the exemplar for meditation, for absorption. There's one for each of the 9 processes, and he's the exemplar for meditation, completely protected. And ultimately, Nrsingadev comes and dispatches his father. So back to our verse at hand. Janma karma cha me divim. Janma means birth, and then activities, or lila. The transcendental nature. One who can truly understand it in truth. You see, not superficially. Veti tattvataha. Then giving up the body does not take birth again, but comes to me, O Arjuna. And this is truly secure liberation, coming to Krishna, being reinstated in your position as a servant of Krishna, in your particular siddha deya in the spiritual world. Then there's no more fall down. But others who are trying to merge into the Brahman effulgence and give up their personality, that's the nirvishesha that Prabhupada is saving us from. Nirvishesha means no details, no form, nothing. Just that I am that I am. I exist, and now I'm free of birth and death. Great. But how long can you be happy just being free of birth and death? What are you going to do? We're persons just like Krishna. We need activities, you see. So there's a verse describing that Prabhupada would always quote. Ye and ye adavindaksha vimuktamaninas tvayastabhavad avishuddha buddhya aruha kritrena parang parang tata patanjado anadvita yushmarangriya. These are the demigods praying to Krishna in the womb. You know the story that he was born in the dungeon of Kamsa, to Devaki and Vasudeva. And he showed his Narayan form. Now it's the Narayan form as a baby. A little baby with 4 arms and, all these ornaments and everything. It was quite remarkable. And then he turned himself into a little human-looking like baby with 2 arms, And Vasudeva, who had promised to give all his children to Kamsa, in order to save Devaki at the beginning there, when that whole scene was, he just got married, got the omen was spoken. He broke his word. He didn't give this baby. He went out, and they, all the shackles opened up and everything opened up, and he carried him across the water of the Yamuna to Vrindavan and exchanged him for the baby that had just been brought to Yashoda, which was a female. It turned out to be Mahamaya personified, So, and brings him back and puts him, and then comes, oh, the eighth son is born. The 8th child is born. The Oman would say the 8th child, didn't say the son. So he rushes in and he's going to smash this Mahamaya like he did all the other babies, the other 6. One of them was a so-called miscarriage, that was Balaram. And she flies up into the sky, she said, you can't kill me, I'm material energy, And the child who will kill you is born somewhere else, and then she disappears. So anyway, that's part of Krishna's pastimes. And so he's growing up now in Vrindavan, not in Mathura. And then it goes on to that. And so understanding Krishna in truth means understanding who we are also in relation to it. So it implies, it entails being advanced in devotional service and accepting Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and acting in such a way, as Krishna will outline here, in developing our consciousness of Krishna more and more at every moment, and our devotion to Krishna. And that will produce liberation and so much more. The progression is you start with the motive of getting free of birth, old age, disease, and death, which is fine. But do it in such a way that you're practicing bhakti. Because as you progress in bhakti, that motive will fade into the background. It's like Lord Chaitanya, Nadanang Nadananda Sundarim. He's telling us how we should pray for as we chant Hare Krishna. And he says, don't pray for money, don't pray for followers, don't pray for a beautiful spouse, or another way of saying that, Sundarim Kavitam, that they go together. that a very, very wonderful erudition, education. That's another opulence that you can have. You know, you're not. I'm not nadanam nasundarim kavitamva jagadisha kame, O Lord of the universe. And then he says, not even for liberation. Mama janmani janmani. So when you talk about birth after birth, then you're saying that implies you don't want liberation. Then what do you want? What are you praying for? Mama janmani janmani ishware bhavatar bhakti rahaitukhi tvahi. Oh my Lord, I want this unmotivated devotional service unto you. That pure devotional service. Unmotivated means that there's only one motivation, and that is to please Krishna. You don't want anything for yourself. But that mood of simply being aware of Krishna's desire and trying to fulfill it, that gives you the greatest happiness, and it also ensures liberation without even trying. That is the actual essence of our practice. Rupa Goswami, you know, he consolidated in its 1 or 2 verses the goal that we're looking for. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma jnanapatam anukulena krishnanushilanam bhaktiruttama. First he says what it isn't. Anya abhilashita shunyam. Shunyam means devoid of any other desire. And then he gives samples. Jnana karma jnanapatam. Jnana implies desire for liberation through speculation. This is what the Mayavadis do. They spend all their time reading the Vedanta Sutra and contemplating and trying to come to a point where, through mere force of will and intellect, they can, you know, become liberated. And karma is a standard sense gratification. But then he says adi. Adi means etc., whatever else you can come up with. So your activities and your heart should not be covered, avritam, by any of these material desires. Then what should we desire? What should we aspire for? Anukulena krishnanushilanam. Activity, shilana means behavior, activities that you do, that are simply, the motive for doing them is to please Krishna. Anukulena Krishna means favorable for Krishna. So Kamsa, who was fully Krishna conscious, he was constantly so scared of him, he was dreaming of him, he was terrified. But it's not bhakti, it's fear. You see, and he conspired all the ways to so-called kill him, you know, and finally he was killed by Krishna. So he was fully Krishna conscious, but he wasn't a devotee. And even he, because he was killed by Krishna, and if someone is killing you, that's what you're thinking of. You're absorbed in that person. And so he merged. He didn't go to Vaikuntha, but he went into the Brahmajyoti. So, but here, you know, Rupa Goswami, no, favorably, anukulena krishnanushilanam bhaktiruttama. And it boils down to this wonderful phrase that I discovered in the second canto way back when I first read it. I said, this is great. It's not even the whole verse. But it encapsulates the goal that we're trying to strive for, the transformation of consciousness to achieve this. And it says, Bhajaniya Padma Purusha Sukha Matra Swasukatvam. It's simple, very simple. So what does it mean? Bhajaniya Padma Purusha means the worshipable supreme person, Krishna. Padma Purusha is Krishna. Bhajaniya means who we should worship. Sukha Matra means only the happiness of that person. Swasukatvam should be your happiness. You see? And then the materialists will say, you know, what about me? I mean, it's nice to always be, you know, to be so kind that you want to be happy to others, but what about my happiness? That's the fallacy. We are part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna is by nature full of bliss, and if we can participate in that bliss and increase it, you know, then we also become blissful, because we're part and parcel of Krishna. Our fallacy is we've established an artificial separation from Krishna. So we're trying to be happy separate from Him. But that's suicide. It means that we ensure our round of birth and death and suffering like anything. Because it's unnatural. It's just not who we are. We are mamai vangsho jiva loka jiva bhuta sanatana, Krishna says in the 15th chapter. All these living entities, not just human beings, every living entity, irreducible, particle of consciousness, is my anksha, is part and parcel of me. In this material, Mame Vangsha Jiva Loka Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, they are eternally that. They never merge in me. They never lose their individuality. This comes in right at the beginning of the Gita. the 12th verse of the 2nd chapter, which is the 2nd verse that Krishna speaks as, instructing the Gita. Natve baham jatanasam natvam neme janadipa natchevadnabhavishara sarve vayamatak param. He's on the battlefield there, he starts his instruction, and the second thing he says is, all of these soldiers here, and the leaders of the fight and the infantry, every one of them, and myself and yourself, Arjun, we have all existed in the past as individuals. We exist now as individuals, and we'll always in the future, to eternity, we will exist as individuals. None of us will ever die, will ever go out of existence, nor will any of us ever merge. That's an illusion. We always will be individual souls. So that what is our relation with Krishna? We're his angsha. Just like a drop of water has the same quality as the ocean. A little salt and whatever is in there, but the quantity is usually different. So our real happiness, just like the hand, what is it funny? The hand is to do you don't even think it. You just wanted to pick up the thing and whatever, it does whatever you want. But if suddenly the hand is paralyzed and doesn't do what you want, it's a problem. And if you really can't fix it, you cut it off. So we've been cut off. We'll always be alive, but we've alienated ourselves from Krishna. It's our desire. And we're reenacting it every day. Because now, we're thinking of Krishna. We're sitting here in Krishna's temple, we're hearing his book, and, okay. But at a certain point, our desire to be separate and do something that's not Krishna conscious comes up, if we're pure devotees. And if we willfully forget Krishna and try to do something separate, So that, if the pure devotees never do that, because they're always tasting the nectar of their rasa with Krishna. And it begins with thinking of him, glorifying him, serving him, and trying to get others to do that and join the party. In other words, it's like a disease. Material life is like a disease. And the problem is this false ego, this false sense of self, and separatism, where we've forgotten our real nature. So, Srila Prabhupada, realized soul, he has the medicine. He's experiencing it from moment to moment. How you can be happy in this world and peaceful in this world, and tap into a source of bliss and ananda that's completely eclipses any material happiness. So he's experiencing it. So, following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya and all the great acharyas, he wants to give it out because we're all brothers and sisters. Let me try to recruit people, who have never heard of this, so that they can understand reality, and then you can experience this happiness and move forward on the path, the bhakti marga, to perfect their lives and go back to Godhead. That's the mood of the real great acharyas and preachers. And he's following the line from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Bhaktivinoda and all of our forebears. We have a tremendous line of realized souls behind us. This is one of the foundations of faith. It all begins with faith. It all begins with faith. Even on the material plane, you have to have faith. Prabhupada points out, if you want to go somewhere, like because he came to America, he came on that boat. But after that, he was flying everywhere. So you have to have faith that, yes, I give the money, get the ticket, and the plane is worthy, and all of the systems, and the pilot knows what he's doing, and you got the air traffic controllers. I read this article, all the air traffic controllers are now, they don't have enough of them, and they're, drinking, and they're falling asleep on the job. Great, that really gives you, I want to fly. Do you want to fly now? She's great. So you're driving down Grand Avenue, and, you're getting up to 30, 35, 40, and a light screen, and it's still green, and it starts turning yellow. You have faith that I can make that yellow light, and it's still red. This one's red. It's keeping these guys from going into this. This is faith. You don't even realize it. Just to take one step in this world, you go into. I remember there was an incident where, this is many years ago, maybe 20 years ago at least, where some crazy person, just like you have people now going into schools and shooting it up. What the hell? Why? So this person thought it was a great idea to go in there and unscrew the Tylenol caps and put in some cyanide pills and yeah. And a few people died or something, So this is scary. Well, now I can't trust Tylenol anymore, And so the point is you have faith, and just to take step one in this world, you require faith. But the real faith that will benefit us mostly is to have faith in that which is beyond our ability to see with and understand with our material senses. But because we are able to get the association of someone who has seen, that's why it says, how does it go? Tad vidi paripatena pariprashnena seve ubhadakshanti tegam jnaninas tattva darshina. Means someone who has seen the truth. In other words, by perfecting the vision, you can see within and without, Krishna is there. And if that person you can get contact with, and that's what we get when we open Prabhupada's books, is that we're having that, and you read it, it has that unique quality. There's no maybes, well, it could be this way. No. It's all, he's quoting from the Upanishads constantly. You know, he himself is referring to Baladev Vidyabhushan's commentary. So he has that, and you know, he dedicates the book to him. So what I'm saying is that it's a whole different way of understanding ourselves and this world and what the goal of life is. And this verse kind of encapsulates it. If we can come to the point of understanding the divine quality, the nature of Krishna's birth and his Leela, and in truth, then we're assured of going back to Godhead, you know. So we should strive for that. And this, you know, the next verse is also very good, and I should leave a little time for that. Any questions on this important verse? Janma karma cha me divyam. Okay. Yes, something? No, you just have the mic. Okay. All right. I'm getting overheated, preaching too much, so I'm going to take this off. All right, let's go on to the next verse. This one is really special. This is very instructive. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mamapashitaha bahavo jnana tapasa putamad bhavam agata. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. Purport. As described above, it is very difficult for a person who is too materially affected to understand the personal nature of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Generally, people who are attached to the bodily conception of life are so absorbed in materialism that it is almost impossible for them to understand how the Supreme can be a person. Such materialists cannot even imagine that there is a transcendental body which is imperishable, full of knowledge, and eternally blissful. In the materialistic concept, the body is perishable, full of ignorance, and completely miserable. Therefore, people in general keep this same bodily idea in mind when they are informed of the personal form of the Lord. For such materialistic men, the form of the gigantic material manifestation is supreme. Consequently, they consider the Supreme to be impersonal. And because they are too materially absorbed, the conception of retaining the personality after liberation from matter frightens them. When they are informed that spiritual life is also individual and personal, they become afraid of becoming persons again. And so they naturally prefer a kind of merging into the impersonal void. Generally, they compare the living entities to the bubbles of the ocean, which merge into the ocean. That is the highest perfection of the spiritual existence attainable without individual personality. This is a kind of fearful stage. Notice that he's going through each one. Raga, Bhaya, and Krodha. So here, this is now he's dealing with the Bhaya people, the impersonalists, afraid of becoming persons again. This is a kind of fearful stage of life. That's Bhaya, devoid of perfect knowledge of spiritual existence. Furthermore, there are many the next group. Furthermore, there are many persons who cannot understand spiritual existence at all, being embarrassed by so many theories and by contradictions of various types of philosophical speculation. They become disgusted or angry and foolishly conclude that there is no supreme cause and that everything is ultimately void. Now, Prabhupada's vocabulary, you say it's embarrassed. Usually it has one meaning, right? Embarrassed, oh, I'm ashamed, something happened, you know, I whatever. That's not what this means. Embarrassed means they're compromised, that their existence or their efforts are reduced or impeded in some way. So that's what embarrassed means. If you look it up, you'll see there's another meaning to the word. Did I read that? Being embarrassed by so many theories and by contradictions? Yes. That there's no supreme cause and that everything is ultimately void. Such people are in a diseased condition of life. Some people are too materially attached, and therefore they do not give attention to spiritual life. That's the raga part. Some of them want to merge into the supreme spiritual cause, and some of them disbelieve in everything, being angry at all sorts of spiritual speculation out of hopelessness. You see that? He's covered the raga, bhaya, and krodha. This last class of men take to the shelter of some kind of intoxication, and they're no, this is wrong. It's not effective. You know what effective means? It's a technical psychological term. Means emotional affect. It has no affect. You just blah. No, Prabhupada said effective. The first editor couldn't figure out what that means. What is it? And they're effective hallucinations. What is that? What Prabhupada simply meant was that resultant. They take shelter of some kind of intoxication, LSD, and the resultant hallucinations, that's the way the latest printing reads, and the resultant hallucinations are sometimes accepted as spiritual vision. Prabhupada was directly experiencing that at 26 2nd Avenue. One has to get rid of all three stages of material consciousness: attachment to material life, raga, fear of spiritual personal identity, bhaya, and the conception of void that arises from frustration in life, krodha. To get free from these three stages of the material concept of life, one has to take complete shelter of the Lord, guided by the bona fide spiritual master, and follow the disciplines and regulative principles of devotional life. The last stage of devotional life is called bhava, or transcendental love of God. According to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, 1:4:15-16, the science of devotional service. Now this is a very famous set of verses. The ladder from faith to love. Remember I talked about how important faith is? He talks about that's first. Adhar shraddha tatak sadhu sango tabhajana kriya tato narta nivritti syat tato nishta ruchis tataha atasakti tato bhavas tatak prema vyudanchati sadhakanam ayam premna pradubhavid bhavekrama. In the beginning, one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization. This will bring one to the stage of trying to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated. This preliminary desire takes the form of some faith or interest. Let me check out those Hare Krishnas. They gave me this little book. It's very intriguing. Let me go. So they come, brings them into the association. Just like here. Sadhu Sangha. That's famous word. And then Bhajana Kriya. In the next stage, one becomes initiated. Okay. So you practice, and you want to become initiated by an elevated spiritual master. And under his instruction, the neophyte devotee begins the process of devotional service, bhajana kriya. By execution of devotional service, under the guidance of the spiritual master, one becomes free from all material attachment. So that's the anarta nivritti, purification of unwanted desires and fears, anxieties, and all these other things. That's anarta nivritti. Okay, and acquires a taste, ruchi, tato nishta. By executing under the guidance of spiritual master, one becomes free from all material attachments, attains steadiness, that's nishta, in self-realization, and acquires a taste for hearing about the absolute personality of God. That's the ruchi, Sri Krishna. This taste, ruchi, leads one further forward in attachment, asakta. That's the asakta for Krishna consciousness, which is matured in bhava, or the preliminary stage of transcendental love of God, prema. Real love for God is called prema, the highest perfectional stage of life. Close quote. In the prema stage, there is constant engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So, by the slow process of devotional service, under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, one can attain the highest stage, being freed from all material attachment, from the fearfulness of one's individual spiritual personality, and from the frustrations that result in void philosophy. Thus, one can ultimately attain to the abode of the Supreme Lord. So this idea, vita, raga, bhaya, krodha, that phrase appears several times in the Bhagavad Gita. Free from attachment, fear, and anger. And I don't know if you, some of you were there, was it Sunday that I was speaking at that? Of the 16th chapter, yeah, with the Gita. And this little lesson at the end of the 16th chapter about the importance of the Shastra. And Krishna is describing what happens to the died in the world demons. They go down and down and down, and they get into a hellish situation. So there are 3 gates leading to this hell. Now they're not exactly like this, but they're close. Trivadam nadakasedam dwaram nashanam. Dwaram means the door. Dwaram nashanam atmanaha, which destroy the soul. Well, the soul can be destroyed, but you can become, buried for a long time. Kama, krodas, tata lobas, tasmad etat chijed. Lust, anger, and greed. Therefore, one should give them up. Eva mukta konte tomo dwara istibir acharat yatmanak shreyas tato yati parangatim. Those who have become free from these 3 by the practice of devotional service, they perform activities for their ultimate good, bhakti yoga. And ultimately, tato yati parangatim, they go to the supreme goal. And then, but, it goes back and forth. Yesh Shastra Vidam. Now he brings in the importance of the Shastra, you see. Yesh Shastra Vidam Utsvija Vartate Kamakarataha Nasa Siddham Avaptoti Nasukam Naparangatim. Those who discard or disregard the injunctions of the Shastra and simply act according to their own whims, they attain neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme goal. Therefore, last verse of the chapter, Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te Karya Karya Vivastito Gyatva Shastra Vidanoktam Karma Karta Miharasi. Therefore, one should accept as pramana. Now, this word is very, very important. Everybody accepts pramana, evidence of what they should believe and how they should strive in life. The problem today is that you get so much misinformation, disinformation, people lying left and right. What can you really trust? That is, this is the truth, and the person really has my interest at heart, right? So that's very important. So the Shastra, the revealed scripture as provided by the parampara, by the realized soul. This is called Amnaya. Do we have time? No, we don't have time. I'll have to do it next Tuesday. But Amnaya means Shastra as received through the authorized disciplic succession. This is our salvation. By taking shelter of the books of Srila Prabhupada, which are perfect Amnaya, we can have faith that we won't be cheated and we'll be elevated and come to the conclusion. Too late. Sorry. All right, one quick poem. We'll have to resume this discussion on Tuesday. There'll be a special program on Monday, Christmas Day, and I won't be here. Okay. Sense pleasure is a dream. Since pleasure is a dream, Krishna supreme, the aim is prem, and the way is the name. You can remember that. Okay, all glory to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for your attention.